Hello world. So today, let's talk about a Python practice question that I came across when I was still a Python beginner. I actually spent a few days trying to solve this, and I think it's worth giving it a try if you are still learning the basics of programming in Python. So this is how it goes. Write a function pyramid string that takes in a string, and we can assume that there's no spaces inside the string. This function then prints this pyramid pattern. For example, if the function takes in a, b, c, d, e, f, we get a on the first line, b, c on the second line, and d, e, f on the third line. So notice that each line has one more character than the next line. Also, if there are insufficient characters, we can use the star character for padding. So for example, here we have a, b, c, d, e, f, g. And if we print the pattern, we have a on the first line, b, c on the second line, D, E, F on the third line, and G on the fourth line. So for the line that G is on, we are missing 3 characters, and therefore we use the star character to pad it. Similarly, here we have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. So the first 3 lines are the same, but in the last line we have G and H. So here we are missing 2 characters, and therefore we use 2 star characters to pad it. Do pause this video for a while to give it a go. So next, here's the solution. So firstly, I'm going to define pyramid, and it takes in a string, and we assume that there are no spaces inside this string. So before we write any code, let's try to find a pattern inside this pattern. So here, we can see that the length is equals to 1, and here the length is equals to 2, and here the length is equals to 3, and here the length is equals to 4. So we know that row by row, the length of the row increases by 1. Now let's talk about the starting character. So the start is equals to 0 because A is at position 0. So on the second line, the start position is 1 because B is at position 1. And here, start is 3 because D is on position 3. And next, start is 6 because G is at position 6. So we first define start is equals to 0 and length is equals to 1. And here we need to decide whether to use a for loop or a while loop. But in this case, we stop our iteration when there are no more start characters that we can use. So here, it is better to use a while loop. So while the start is less than the length of the string, we do stuff. So first things first, let's print the row. And let's index the row here. So row will start at start, and it will end at start plus length. So let's print row first. However, if we choose to run our function now, we'll simply get an infinite loop. So after printing our row, we need to get ready to move on to the next row, and we need to increase start and length accordingly. So here, notice that start increases by length. So start will plus equals to length. And at every iteration, length will plus equals to 1. So now let's run our function and let's see what's happening. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So right now, we currently have A on the first row, B, C on the second row, D, E, F on the third row, and G on the fourth row. So as of now, we haven't written any code to take into account the padding. So we can actually do it here. So here, the actual length of the row must equals to length. And if it is not, we add the padding. So if the length of row is less than length, we add a bunch of stars after row. So row plus equals to star multiplied by length minus the length of row. And if we run this once again, we will get the correct pyramid pattern. So now let's test this on A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. And if we run this again, and we'll still get the correct output. So one thing to note is that it is always helpful to plan out what you are going to code up in this way, and look for certain patterns that you can find inside the code. So anyway, thanks for watching, and hopefully this was a fun challenge.